My dying grandfather asked me to bring him his watch from the safe, and that's when I realized my entire family had been lying to me. My grandfather was a watchmaker for 40 years. He had this gold Omega from 1962 that his own father brought over from Switzerland. It wasn't just expensive, it was the only thing he had left from his dad who died when he was 9. He kept it in a fireproof safe in his bedroom closet. Combination was my grandmother's birthday. Everyone knew about that watch because he talked about it constantly. He used to let me hold it when I was little and tell me how his father saved for 3 years to buy it. When I was 14, he sat me down and told me that watch would be mine one day because I was the only grandchild who ever asked about his father's story, not the value, the story behind it. Fast forward, I'm 26, and my grandfather is in hospice. Lung cancer spread, and the doctors gave him maybe 2 weeks left. One afternoon, it was just us in the room, and he grabbed my wrist harder than I expected for a man that fragile. He said, "Go to the house and bring me my father's watch. I want to hold it one more time before I go." I drove 20 minutes to his house and went straight to the bedroom closet. I opened the safe, and the watch was gone. Everything else was there. His marriage certificate, some cash, old photographs, but the watch case was sitting there empty. I called my mom and asked if she knew where it was. She got quiet and said Grandpa probably moved it and forgot. I told her the safe was perfectly organized and nothing else was out of place. She changed the subject and told me to just come back to the hospital. Something about her voice made me feel sick. That night, I called my uncle and asked the same question. He told me Grandpa sold it years back because he needed money for medical bills. That didn't make sense because my grandfather had full VA coverage and never paid a dime for his treatment. I mentioned that and my uncle got defensive and said, "I don't know the details, just drop it." Now I had two different stories from two people who never agree on anything, and somehow they were both lying the exact same way. Calm, dismissive, don't look into it. The next morning, I went back to the hospital. I didn't tell him the watch was gone because I couldn't break his heart like that. I told him the safe was stuck and I'd try again tomorrow. He nodded and closed his eyes. That afternoon, I started going through old family group texts. About 8 months back, I found a thread where my cousin Derek mentioned getting a watch appraised. I scrolled further and found a photo he sent to my aunt. It was my grandfather's Omega. The text under it said, "Appraiser valued it at $28,000, and a collector in Dallas had already made an offer." My aunt replied with a thumbs up emoji and the words, "Don't tell Dad." I screenshot everything. Then I called Derek directly. He picked up and I didn't even say hello. I just said, "Where is Grandpa's watch?" Dead silent for about 10 seconds, and then he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I told him I had the texts and the appraisal photo, and he had 4 hours to return that watch before I got a lawyer involved. He tried to say Grandpa gave it to him, but I asked him to explain the "Don't tell Dad" text if that were true. He hung up on me. I sat in my car shaking because this wasn't some stranger. This was my family. The people who show up to Sunday dinners and kiss my grandfather on the forehead and tell him they love him. These same people stole from a dying man and then lied to my face about it. 3 hours later, my aunt called me screaming about how I was tearing the family apart over a stupid watch. I let her finish, and then I said, "You stole from a 91-year-old man on his deathbed. There is nothing you can say that makes you the victim here." She hung up. An hour after that, Derek showed up at my door with the watch. He didn't say a word, just handed me the case and left. I drove straight to the hospital. My grandfather was asleep. I sat next to him and waited. When he finally opened his eyes, I placed the watch in his hand. He didn't ask where it had been. He just held it against his chest, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Thank you, Papa." He passed away 4 days later with that watch still in his hand. My family hasn't spoken to me since the funeral. They think I chose a watch over them, but I didn't choose a watch. I chose the only man who ever showed me what loyalty actually looks like.